What an extraordinary year it's been on What I Want to Know. In 2024, we explored education's most vital conversations, from school safety and supporting students through tragedy to the power of literacy and the future of school choice. We examined violence prevention in schools, celebrated Hispanic heritage in our classrooms, discovered how play and sports can help children heal and grow. Oh, and we also explored new opportunities in charter schools and online learning. Here are some of our favorite moments from this year. Share yours using hashtag WIWTK on social media. That's hashtag WIWTK. And tell us in the comments what you want to know in 2025. To catch full episodes, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. This is What I Want to Know.
We are pro solutions. We're pro kindness and compassion, respect, helping others, reaching out. We're pro inspiring hope and then teaching the life skills for how to maintain it, because hope is absolutely a life skill. We're pro connection and teaching the skills for how to connect well with other people. So we are totally positive in our approach, and we get directly to root causes. So a lot of school safety efforts are focused on reacting to a threat. We are focused on preventing a threat from ever occurring. So how do you prevent someone from engaging in an act of violence, either to themselves or with others? I think that in order to do that, we have to get to the root causes. And so that comes back to what I was saying earlier, that there is really one and only one prevention that they've identified for youth suicide, and that's connectedness. It's what the CDC calls connectedness, which could be very easily defined as human connection. And when you prevent youth suicide, you go a long way toward preventing school shootings and other forms of violence, because the precursors, the warning signs for youth suicide are all of the problems that we're seeking to address, right? It's the mental health, the uptick in mental health concerns that we're seeing. So anxiety, depression, loneliness, those are precursors to youth suicides. They are also precursors to violence. And when we look at mass shootings, things like that, school shootings, those are a suicide first. Those are a suicide in slow motion. That shooter's already made the decision to die. It's just that they often don't have a getaway plan. You know, they've made the decision to die. It's just that they're looking to take other people out with them.
Each of us are so strong, and we have our own power in the fact that we've decided to continue to keep going and go through such amazing things as things like activism after going through something so horrific. So, for example, one of the survivors that I met from Uvalde, she should be 11 now. And so seeing her go through something so tragic at such a younger age than I was, because I was 17 and she was 9 at the time. And so having to go through that at 9 and what I went through at 17 and feeling like a big blubbering baby just makes all the difference. So being able to see her speak on Capitol Hill and go to the White House and meet the president, she's probably one of my biggest aspirations and one of my biggest inspirations in what I want to be, because I tell her all the time I want to be like her when I grow up.
What COVID did was it forced every single parent across the country to look at what their kids were learning and how their kids were learning, and it forced them to do that all at the same time, which has never happened before. You've never had a singular moment where every parent has been forced to pay attention to their kids' education at the same time. And so parents did, and in some cases, they were even more appreciative of what their kids' teachers were doing. I know that teachers worked incredibly hard under incredibly difficult circumstances during COVID. In other cases, parents said, you know, I can see why this works in a traditional bricks and mortar setting for my child, but this emergency remote learning is just not what my child will benefit from. Other families looked at their children's learning and realized there wasn't enough learning going on. And so what I think every family realized, whether or not they were happy with their child's school, thought they did a decent enough job coping with the challenges, or completely dissatisfied, families wanted or wished they at least had something else from which to choose, even if they were happy. And so that resulted in families understanding for the first time, in many cases, that school choice was the way that more communities need to go. And they stood up, they spoke out, and lawmakers listened. And in just the last 12 months, in just the last year, 20 states have expanded school choice and educational freedom in some way, shape, or form.
This world has made you believe that there's a certain way to do things. And your belief system is clouding your growth. It is stumping your potential. It is stopping you from becoming who you want to become because you worried about stuff that is outside of your control. Only thing you can control is where you at with your life. If you read at a first grader, you are the best first grade reader in the world. And you enjoy that. And everywhere you go, you operate as a first grade reader. And anybody who does not enjoy that, those are the people who need to get out of your life. So if you go in places and you're like, hey, I don't read that well. I need somebody who can help me. I need friends around me. That's the world you need to create. If you don't do that, you will never become the person that you want to become. That's the starting point with something like this.
The mission of Sandy Hook Promise is really to ensure that we're educating young people and the adults around them how to recognize the warning signs when someone is at risk of hurting themselves or hurting someone else, and then to intervene. And that's really critical for cultural change, because when you talk about the issue of gun violence prevention and school shootings, at the moment it so quickly becomes a political or divisive issue, versus this is just about keeping kids safe and teaching them how to help each other.
We have some of the most amazing kids in the world. And the trauma that some of them have experienced, I don't know how they get up in the morning, but it is so fabulous to watch them get involved in classes. They feel safe. And I think that is so important, is that a child feels safe. And they feel safe because, one, they're in their homes, but they're also surrounded by educators who care about them, who hold them to very high standards, but then support them along the way. And if I'm asking you to do trig and you can't add, I need to support you.
Yeah.
And that's what our teachers do. We have that flexibility and drive to support our kids, and they feel it. They also feel heard. I meet with the kids all the time. And if they want something or they want to try something, they just ask me. And if I can figure out how to do it for them, I will. So they feel like a part of our community.
The opposite of overwhelming stress is not no stress. It's the right dose of stress. Mm-hmm. And so the opportunity in sport of having a little bit of stress and being able to recover, and having a little bit more and being able to recover, and continuing to challenge yourself, whether you're challenging yourself with a layup or you're challenging yourself with some other kind of interpersonal skill, you get to practice them there. And putting those three things together in a sport environment is, I think, magic, and totally underutilized when it comes to how we get kids ready to learn, how we get them ready to function.
So students, if they're interested, they can take pre-nursing courses as early as junior year in a nursing program, and that can accelerate their trajectory to becoming a nurse. There's also certifications that students can earn that give them a leg up, if you will. So it exposes them to the field of nursing and healthcare. So they may not want to be a nurse, but there's other opportunities, like if they want to be a phlebotomist or a medical assistant. And so these are valuable skills and certifications that students can earn and help them if they're interested in becoming a nurse and pursuing an education.
To have access to the technology while being at school at home, and then also being able to just embark on the website or emailing people. It's almost so not acceptable, as that guidance counselor kind of proved, to do something different or embark outside of that traditional mold. So when you're able to have access to, creative outlets on the internet, it gave me really a head start in ways that I could not have gotten if I was in that public school, because, K-12 enabled me to do that. I never had any judgment. I never dealt with competition with other kids, because it allows you to creatively find yourself, but then have other activities on the side where you can connect with people. What was really helpful for me was being able to look at this computer and look at the internet as a tool, not a lifeline, but really a tool to embark on education-wise opportunities as well as career-wise ones.
We are teachers. When we have the passion in our heart, we make it happen. And I made it happen. Obviously, I have to go through my mind through different ideas, brainstorming. And one of the things that I always do was showing my own culture. And so there is a beautiful bedroom in my house. It's our guest bedroom. But when I move here, it's like, I want to have a little bit of me in here. So that bedroom is decorated with different Colombian artifacts. So I have elements from my culture, the hat, the poncho, different paintings, different pieces of arts and crafts. And so when I go in there, it's like, I'm in Colombia. I see things that belong to my culture. So what I said is, okay, I am in this computer and in this chair all the time. I'm going to get out of it, and I'm going to take my students with me.
Thanks for listening to What I Want to Know. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, so you can explore other episodes and dive into our discussions on the future of education. And write a review of the show. I also encourage you to join the conversation and let me know what you want to know using hashtag WIWTK on social media. That's hashtag WIWTK. For more information on Stride and online education, visit stridelearning.com. I'm your host, Kevin P. Chavous. Thank you for joining What I Want to Know.